This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. We've got a great show lined up for you today, my friends, so let's just jump right into it. Joining me on the line today is Joseph Carrabba. He is with Winston Gold Corp. WinstonMining.com is the website. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on Press for Truth today. I wanted to get your views on where you see the gold market heading in 2020. I mean, you don't have a crystal ball, it's tough to say, but right now we're seeing the stock market is kind of losing its value in the past few days, certainly more so than it has in years. We've got the fears of the coronavirus continuing to spread, and this has pushed the Dow Jones Industrial Average below 27,000, first time since October. So I'm curious to get your views on where you see gold heading with things like this happening. But before we get into that, maybe we could touch on specifically what's happening today. Because right now, gold is trading at all-time highs in about 80 different currencies, the euro, the yen, Canadian dollar. What do you think is happening here? We've got billionaires like Ray Dalio, Paul Tudor Jones, who are really bullish right now. What do you think's going on?
Well, thanks, Dan, for having me on. And you're right. It is quite an era right now that we're living in of all of these confounding and confusing signals that we see, including the price of oil, if you want to throw that in as well, which was always, gold usually tracked quite nicely with the price of oil when it was on its way up. Those metrics have all been broken. And as you say, even in a rising stock market, other than the last few days, we saw gold hit our all-time highs for a number of years and stabilize, and we didn't lose a lot of ground during the weeks as well. Look, I think the pressures that we see on around the world right now, from the disruptions of Hong Kong to the coronavirus that is currently quite on everybody's nerves, not only from a health and a human interest standpoint, but if you look at the supply chains of all the major companies, all of those warnings are starting to go out now that they are going to have disruptions in their profits in the second and third quarters as supply chains try and catch back up. And then we hope for that V recovery that we'll see later. So gold is the stabilizing factor it is right now. As you know, in Canada, the cannabis craze came and went, and that kind of threw all the mining and gold stocks off because everybody went through the cannabis phase with it. And then the cryptocurrency and blockchain phase came in. And again, all the precious metal things went to the sides, particularly in Canada, and trying to raise money in these Canadian junior miners. Well, that's all off the table now. And guess what? Good old gold is back like it has been for hundreds of years, and people are starting to put their faith in it. When you see guys like Ray Dalio that, as far as what I've read, has never come to the table with gold, now all of a sudden is starting to be quite bullish on gold. You see people starting to round their portfolios out with gold. The central banks around the world are, according to the World Gold Council's quarterly information, they continue to buy at very high rates into their treasuries to support their currencies, with the U.S. gold, with the U.S. dollar being so high right now against their currency. So a lot of dynamics continue to show up. Again, without the crystal ball, a lot of dynamics that gold should more than hold its own, if not to continue on an upward trajectory.
Well, in your experience, have you ever seen a time when we've had a very strong dollar, little to no inflation, stock markets being really high, yet at the same time gold being so strong?
No, absolutely not. And I obviously we're all thinking a lot about that, and what's happening with this. I think you got to go back to the financial crisis of 08 and 09. All of the fiat currency now, it's backed by the faith of the government, right? That they're going to support this paper currency that goes with it. I think a lot of that confidence was shattered in 08 and 09 when the banks failed. The governments really didn't come in to support a lot of people that lost a lot of their goods and services and personal wealth that came at it. And I think that's where the cryptocurrency phase came in, and people are looking for another way to move forward with it. In my experience right now, particularly in the U.S. market that I deal in mainly, those folks are just now coming around to understanding, how do you buy gold? You'd be quite surprised with savvy investors. a personal people that they just don't know how to buy gold. You know, the U.S. is not a mining commodity type of a market. And I think they're just coming around that recognition and trying to figure out how to buy gold. I have a lot of those conversations, but no, this beats anything I think anybody's ever seen in their history.
Well, a lot of these other guys in the mining space right now are talking about the possibility, you know, that we've reached like a peak gold period. It seems right now that finding gold is becoming more and more difficult. Why would you say that is?
Well, I think you know it's just absolutely a fact. You know, there haven't been any major discoveries
Mhm.
in gold, you know, in the past decade that goes with it. The mining companies, the large mining companies, have to take on higher risk. They're going to more difficult countries to work in, both from a government standpoint and a social responsibility standpoint. That they go out, they're stretching into different districts that they've never would have thought about in the past. That goes with it because they just can't find, you know, the large deposits that they need anymore. You know, the industry standard from drill bit to first gold is 10 years from discovery all the way through. Well, that's a lot of risk and a lot of billions of dollars to put your faith in. And based on the price of gold that you have no control over, and you're really at the mercy of that. So I think the large mining companies and the juniors as well certainly have to work towards that larger find, which they can't find. And of course, you know, grades aren't getting higher either as well. So the cost of production continues into that $900 to $1,000 an ounce,
Mhm.
and commodity just generally needs to raise from a revenue standpoint to support these larger mining costs and the higher risk.
Well, as I understand it, management is projecting to produce 90 ounces of gold every day by December of 2020. And your costs are being around $800 an ounce. And this is with 25 mining days out of the month. This translates to about $6 million monthly profit. So I'm wondering, for the other companies out there who are currently generating this, what are they trading for?
Well, you know, the traditional gold multiples, as you see, are, you know, generally run between 8 and 10. We're very conservative, you know, when we look at those projections, and I let people do their own math. But if you take the EBITDA of the numbers that you just talked about, you know, and apply an 8 to 10 multiple that goes with it, and divide it by the number of outstanding shares, which I think, Dan, are with options all in and warrants are around $230 million. You can pretty quickly see the multiplication on a 9 or 10 cent stock wherever we are today. I haven't had a chance to look today, but you know, you're buying in at a zero multiple, and we're de-risking this project every day as we drive closer onto the gold veins that we're going to be mining here in the second quarter.
Well, as I understand it, you personally own 15% of Winston Gold. So obviously, you're going to do everything in your power to get this into production. But what are some of the risks that you see moving forward? Obviously, a falling gold price would be bad, but what are some of the other possible problems you might foresee in the near future in the mining space?
Sure. Well, just for the audience and the investors, as I always do, you know, yeah, I'm all in on Winston and also on the smaller niche mining area, particularly in safe jurisdictions. And I think the not only is it the financial, you know, money that I've put into Winston, but also I'm now the executive chairman. I'm in the business every day, and I left the Newmont Gold board after being on that for about 9 years, the 30th of June, after the Gold Corp deal was done, because I didn't want a conflict of interest, but I also wanted to devote time in this small niche. So, you know, to me, that's all in. That's all you can give, right, from a personal standpoint as well as financially as it goes from there. Look, I did a lot of due diligence on this through the years. As I went through it, I went out and met the team. I went through through all of the geological science and the modeling that came with it. And then when I all in, I helped build the budgets and the financial model from the bottom up, and also did the risk analysis as well, which you can see on our website in our investor presentation, and it's live and active. I really thought, Dan, at the beginning of this, our biggest problem was going to be people. How do you attract in a junior mining startup? Finances are tight. How do you do that? And I have to say, I am just overwhelmed with the folks we've brought on board. We have our chief geologist is a former Barrick geologist that worked at Cortez. We have a mining engineer that was up in Alaska working, that has great credentials and practicality. And we just hired a metallurgist to run the mill that we just leased. Just last week, we inked up that's 35 miles away to run that. So that being said, and then we have two very veteran narrow vein miners that have worked throughout Montana, Idaho, and the West in general to lead the mining crews that come with it. And that was, I thought personally, was the biggest risk. Where are we going to get the talent? But we found people like this want to be part of a smaller team. Obviously, we've given them the incentives to grow with us, and I hope they all get very wealthy off of what we're doing. But they want to be part of a team, and they want to be part of the decision making that goes with it. And that was the biggest risk we've had. From a de-risking standpoint, we have the permit to do the test mining, as it's called right now, that can convert quite easily into the permanent mine permit when we need that. Sooner or later, we will hit water in the underground. None of our drilling has proved that out yet, but we're well ahead of that. We've done a year of advanced studies already to set the baseline. So when we do hit water, so we're thinking forward and outwardly when it comes to there. Obviously, the cost base, as you know, is robust. We're almost first quartile when it comes to narrow vein underground mining. And as you know, cost curves are essential when it comes to looking at break evens. If the price of gold does go up or down, and it will, it's a commodity that goes with it. We have a great lease on the ground that we have, and in the community. We've worked hard as a small company to make sure everybody knows what we're doing, and we take their input in as well. So we've had nice community support as well, and we try very much to keep a low profile within the community, if you will. I mean, not to disrupt anything, using the county roads and those types of things, work around bus schedules and things like that. So our ESG is well in line as well. So moving forward, more, tactically, there's the day-to-day problems that you face as a miner every day. Mm-hmm. Mother Nature sometimes isn't as kind as she could be, but that's what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. But as the big overall matrix of risk that we look at, we feel very comfortable with where we are now, but we don't sleep on our laurels either. We work them pretty hard, Dan.
Yeah, well, that's how you have to be at this stage in the game, especially with all these things brewing in the world, the coronavirus, I mean, the stock market, and an eventual dollar crash. I say eventual because I think it's inevitable. So what do you feel about the using gold as a hedge against these things? Is it still a way for people to be able to protect their assets in troubling times?
Well, I certainly think it is. I mean, if you take me as the example, okay, again, my contributions into Winston and what I'm doing on a personal standpoint, from time standpoint, I actually think it's the right hedge for me and my family when it comes to that as well. And I want to have a pretty substantial gold hedge right now, just as I do a cash position as well. I think it's smart with the volatility of this market and the way it moves around every day. You've got to look at the diversification, right, of your different assets, right? That, and gold certainly falls right into that category. And I think people are waking up to that rather quickly when they watch the price of gold move where it is. But I think hold, more importantly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think when they see, central banks buying it up left, right, and center, that should really set off the alarm bells that, hey, maybe I ought to stockpile this right now too, because something's going on. So you guys have obviously been, doing your best to stay two steps ahead of the game. Where can people go if they want to learn more from you guys? What's the best link they should check out?
Thanks. Go to Winston Gold Mining, winstongoldmining.com. Okay. Our contact details are there. We're a small company. The response will either come from Murray Nye, the CEO, or it'll come from me. We don't have a lot of middlemen in this business. We're small. We're a startup, but you can get a hold of me personally as well. My personal email is my name, Joseph Carrabba @yahoo.com. Feel free to get a hold of me. I talk to investors all day long, and I encourage our current investors to always call me, if they're not getting enough information. But we are trying to put out a quarterly chairman's letter that goes with it, and any news that we can appropriately put out to keep our investors apprised of what we're doing. But very open, very transparent. It's the shareholders' money that we have to take care of, and we're open for business any day to talk to anybody.
That's awesome. Well, I want to strongly encourage the viewers of this channel to check it out. Links will be located in the description below. Once again, Joseph, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate your time.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.